the old house hung heavy, thick with a scent I couldn't quite place. It wasn't the musty odor of disuse, but something sharp, metallic, and deeply unsettling. I'd been invited by a guy I'd met at a late-night diner, a man named Silas with eyes that held a disconcerting flicker, like dying embers. He'd spoken of a project, something he was working on, and in my desperate need for a story, for anything to break the monotony of my failing life, I'd agreed to visit his secluded property. The house itself seemed to breathe. Shadows pooled in corners, shifting and elongating with a life of their own. Silas led me to a room in the basement, its walls lined with shelves that held an array of peculiar objects, dried herbs, vials of murky liquids, and small carved effigies that seemed to writhe in my peripheral vision. He explained, with a disturbing earnestness, that he was trying to channel ancestral energies, a phrase that sent a prickle of unease down my spine. As he spoke, a faint humming began, vibrating through the floorboards. It started subtly, a low thrum that I initially dismissed as the house settling. But it grew, intensifying, accompanied by a faint, flickering light that emanated from the center of the room, where Silas had placed a large, dark stone. The carvings on the effigies seemed to deepen, their vacant eyes appearing to follow my movements. Then the whispers began. They were faint at first, like wind rustling through dry leaves, but they coalesced into a cacophony of unintelligible sounds, slithering into my ears and coiling in my mind. It felt as though unseen presences were crowding the space, their breath cold against my skin. I saw fleeting movements at the edge of my vision, shadows detaching themselves from walls, shapes coalescing and dissolving. Silas, however, seemed unfazed, his face illuminated by the pulsating light, a look of rapt concentration on his features. He began to chant, his voice a low, guttural sound that resonated with the unnatural hum. The air grew colder, and the metallic scent intensified, now tinged with something acrid, like burnt ozone. Suddenly, one of the effigies on the shelf twitched. Its wooden limbs scraped against the wood, a sound like fingernails on a chalkboard. I flinched, my heart hammering against my ribs. Then another moved, and another, their tiny heads tilting as if to observe me. The whispers swelled, no longer just sounds, but a torrent of fragmented words, alien and menacing. Silas's chanting grew more frantic. The light in the room flared, casting grotesque shadows that danced like dervishes. I felt a pressure building in my head, a crushing weight that threatened to split my skull. The room seemed to warp, the walls rippling like water. I saw Silas's eyes widen, not with fear, but with a terrible, manic exhilaration. And then a voice, clear and sharp amidst the chaos, spoke directly into my mind, not through my ears. It was a voice of pure malice, promising oblivion, promising consumption. It was the voice of something ancient and hungry, something that had been waiting. I scrambled backward, my breath catching in my throat. Silas turned to me, his face contorted, his lips stretched into a rictus grin that revealed too many teeth. The shadows around him seemed to writhe and coalesce, reaching out towards me like tendrils. I knew, with a certainty that chilled me to the bone, that I had stumbled into something far older and far more terrifying than I could have ever imagined. And that Silas wasn't just channeling energies, he was opening a door. Hello, my brave investigators of the unknown, and welcome back to the Aqeela Files. Tonight, we delve into the abyss, where the veil between worlds thins and ancient hungers stir. Are you ready to confront the darkness that lurks just beyond our sight? Because tonight, the door was opened and something is listening.